What you say about his company is what you say about society. Catch the mist, catch the myth, catch the mystery, catch the drift. The world is love and life are deep. Maybe as the skies are wide. Today's Tom Sawyer, he gets high on you. When the space he invades, he gets by on you. Modern day warrior, mean means try. Today's Tom Sawyer, mean pride. Though his mind is not for rent, don't put him down as arrogant. His reserve a quiet defense, riding out the day's events. What you say about his company is what you say about society.
Hello, everybody. Tonight I was hoping to have a few more people on tonight, but there will be a delay on that until next weekend for the part 2 of this to have more people together, and hopefully we can gather actually a couple of members of CASA in the process as well, so that we can actually have a real deep discussion. But yet, I do feel tonight is still important for several reasons. One, there's a few basic things to go over, a few things I was reminded of today by Logan. And there's also one more important thing, getting the input of people in chat on things that maybe they want to know more about, or suggestions they may have that we can actually kind of have some time to think about for next week, and I can discuss with the people that are going to be on the panel next week. But by the way, the Tom Sawyer, you can thank that Adam Pilarczyk. That's hit one of his cover songs, and yeah. I figured it was, I had the tempo I wanted, because I feel like we need that tempo to bring forward everything. So this won't be a long show tonight, but I do want to get into it a little bit. If anybody noticed, I didn't actually promote it as much as it was, because I wasn't sure. I was trying to figure out and discuss who might be here tonight. Originally, we were going to have 4 people on, but one person couldn't make it last minute. Another couldn't make it this week, but might be able to make it next week. And then because of that discussion, we discussed it, and I actually asked if anybody could make it next week instead, so that we can have a bigger panel, because I want to be able to bounce ideas off everyone. Now, I hope everyone's doing okay other than this, but I do believe it's very important that we talk about a few things. One of them primarily being that what Logan and I were talking about earlier is if you go to CASA, then you can actually go and log in and look, and it'll tell you the representatives in your area. You can still contact them. Please do this. I know that this is not a common thing, but we need to push this more and push it. Mallory, I know you are heavy on Twitter a lot. We need to push this a lot more often to put out there your stories to your representatives, not during times of crisis when we're waiting, trying to get them to not push a bill, but all the time. Not obviously not to the point where they ignore you. They'll ignore you if you push it too often. But once in a while, put your story out there, maybe even someone else's story, or the reason why you care so much about this, and keep them informed, or keep them knowing that there's someone out there in their that they are representing cares about this. And the more people we get to do this, the more often we're being actually proactive and at least reminding them that something's going on. That last bill that went through, the omnibus bill, we had 3 days. There is a very slim chance that any of the emails were even read in those 3 days because it was a must pass bill and it wasn't even important to them. What was important to them is passing the bill so they could get paid. So, yeah, and spinning nicotine into a positive is important, but that's another discussion too, but that we'll get into deeper next week. But yes, it is important that we get into that. Yeah, none of them exactly, Mallory. They don't read the entire bill to begin with. Plus, with 3 days was something minor that they don't really care about on the bill, unless they were knowing. And even if they read the bill, they're not going to read the emails too. They're too busy focusing on the bill. Now, if they knew their constituents because they're constantly getting emails from different people in their that they represent, you keep putting these out there repeatedly over and over again. They see overlapping. Lots of people are messaging them with their stories and reasons for not wanting this, life-changing advocacy situation. Vaping, keeping vaping alive so we can keep people alive, so we can keep harm reduction alive, and so we can keep personal choice alive. If we let them know that on a constant basis while they're reading the bill, if they're glimpsing through a bill and they see that on there, go, well, I know at least some people are going to be against this. Maybe they'll take a second to think about it. Not saying it's a guarantee, but I'd saying it's a lot more of a proactive approach versus, hey, there's a bill going on. I'm focused on the new bill here. I mean, should I? And then all of a sudden you get all these ones that look like they just could be bots, last minute. Getting thousands of emails that go to a spam folder and they don't even notice them. They see the first few that come through, but then not all of them. Another suggestion I'm going to put out there today that I'm going to bring up next week is there a possibility we could have it more like a petition, a daily petition sign up, rather than have individual emails that eventually get caught into a spam folder? Have petition emails where one email is in charge of the other, sends in all the names and information for the other emails that are sent in, so that we can actually create a situation where it looks more like you open up an email, you see one person, it's like, it's one person. The rest go to spam, they never see them. Or you get one that has a list, this long list of people on it. That's going to have more power because they're going to see it, and if they want to, they can contact that person because all your information will still be there. Whatever information you submitted for who you are and where you are and how to contact you, they might contact you and say, hey, to verify some of these people are real, and then say, realize that, then it's got more power as a petition situation. I think that might be a better route. I don't know for sure if CASA can do it or if we can do it another way or have someone else do that once in a while, especially when it comes to bill time. It's a cult, yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing. Was discussed actually earlier. We had another discussion that had nothing to do with the people that are going to be on the panel next week, but a discussion I had earlier with someone else. Actually, you guys all know him very well. I talked to Swaggy Shane earlier. We're talking about this a little bit, and that's another reason for the mixing. That's another reason why we get into mixing, is because it's a way to not only promote things, but it's actually a way to almost like live closer to the heart. Like that's actually, I'm trying to think, sorry, I'm on the spot on this one. I'm trying to think of the wording I'm trying to look for this. But it actually is, it becomes a love, as many of us have realized. I've seen that realities here. I mean, I know that we wane and go back and forth, and sometimes you're inspired, sometimes you're not throughout all this. And I see it with many people in the mixing community. But the fact is, one of the things that pushed me to it is not only because I wanted to do it, but I was thinking that's why I started going on to the shows that were asking me to come on. Because not only was it good for me, but it's also good for others. And it actually almost brings the community and the family closer together. If anyone isn't a part and is a part or knows about the vaping community versus the mixing community, the mixing community tends to be even closer. It's like taking this group that's pretty close already, closer than most big groups are in the world, and then you got this little niche that's just like right there, and that's what makes us more dangerous to those who oppose us. That's what makes us more powerful to them, and that's what we need to focus on. We have that over them. This is just a bunch of people just throwing darts at a dartboard and hoping some stick. We're not. We're actually going and we're fighting for what we care about. That gives us more power. The problem is we got to figure out how to do it efficiently and proactively, rather than waiting until we got a bunch of bills on the desk and then we're trying to, oh no, we got to contact someone. In the last minute things doesn't mean it'll always get seen, especially now that we're not able to go and actually see our representatives in many cases. A lot of times it has to be done either over the phone or over the internet. That's unfortunately, even if they want to see those emails, and if they don't want to, they want to pretend they didn't see those emails, they can pull that off. Yeah, in the U.S. and Canada, it's not just Canada. Like we were talking about the other day, Dave and I talked even after the show last week. The U.S. and Canada are one, but there's other countries. Look at the U.S. and look at the way things go. We're not just affecting just one country. We're affecting literally all over the world because of what we do. And what's even stranger is you don't see people, as many countries, turning to the UK for this. And I think that is absolutely crazy and insane that we don't see that. Someone mentions UK, and yes, we understand that. But then you'll have someone else that's anti, and they'll be like, so? And that is not okay, because they're doing it right. And although that, from a politician's perspective, and the discussions I've had with them, I'm fairly confident that this is actually their perspective on it, is that it doesn't matter what one person says versus another. If there's two sides to an argument and there's too much research to be done, they want the simple answer. That's where your stories come in. That's where your health benefits come in. And if you are able to in any way, like anyone has any before you started, while you were smoking and when you started vaping, if you have before and after lung pictures and you can send them, please do, because that can actually, or something like that, or before or after like stress test pictures or results. All of these things matter. The more actual facts you put in, the more science you put into you as a human being is more important than any test can ever be. There is no way for anyone to ever test for taste. There's no way for anyone to ever test for smell. So we're not going to get the test through, even on our side. You got to realize, even our side can have faulty tests. We might know better than them, but we're not going to just sit there and nonstop vape. So that when we do the thing with the lab rats, we don't nonstop. We're not going to like torture them that way. But there's still no guarantee that a coil didn't go bad. How many people have actually ever got a pre-made coil and then off the gate it just wasn't a good coil? That coil goes into that test, you're going to have no way to know. But it can totally affect the animals. And that's just stuff that's just where we go wrong with that. There's no human, usually it's human error that's an issue. It's the human factor that's missing, that's important to that. And that's the problem with the testing. None of the testing actually has that human factor. You're not going to vape through a burnt coil. You're not going to vape through a e-liquid that tastes like it's gone bad. But you put it in a machine, that thing can't tell. It's not going to be able to tell you that, especially if you're only looking for parameters on what certain parameters. Metal content, if there is any, then all these other things. Like metal content could come from a bad coil. If you sit there and burn a bad coil over and over and over again, it will definitely eventually give off some metal particles, I'm sure. And that's probably where they got their research and studies from, is from a bad coil or a coil that was used way too hot, way too long, creating the results they wanted. In our cases, we might go a little bit soft. Like, sometimes it'll actually burn after if I hit it a little too long. So I'm going to make sure they get just, let's be honest. Although ours is better because it's more accurate, it's still not 100%. There's where the politicians are right in assuming the fact that they can't trust all results. What you need to do is to create results of real human testing, which we already have. We've got like 13 years of human testing, 13 years of proof that's undeniable in the health and well-being and the improved lives of the people that have made the switch from smoking to vaping. And we just need to do this. Yeah, and that's in a single issue. There's another thing. Even if you didn't vape, shouldn't it be your right to choose to if you want to? If you are a legal adult in this country, you should have the right to vote and vape. And that goes, I hate to say this, if we could ever figure out a way, which we probably won't, the T21 law, that was reserved for things like alcohol that actually do have repercussions. You know, if someone's vaping, are they going to cause a car accident? Well, I suppose if you overdripped and burned it, possibly. But if it had happened a lot, we would have seen it by now in the news because it would have been blown up all over. You know, and then so they added the T21, which is above cigarettes, which is cigarettes in some cases, which is crazy, or at least on par with them. But when you're 18, you can go overseas, and they used to send it in your rations to go overseas. Cigarettes in rations. It's absurd that we can't have that right. And at some point, I would like us to take back that. Not just win to the point where we're functioning, we can survive, but actually get to that point. And the only way that's going to be is if we can actually convince those that represent us to actually listen. And we got to figure out ways to be more powerful with that because we have not been greatly successful in that area. Mallory, I wondered about that myself because technically it is an electronic device. Portable electronic device. So that's iffy. I mean, I have never heard of anyone here. I've seen lots of people driving and vaping and no one's ever done it, but that could be something that in the future we might have to worry about. I mean, how hard is it for them to twist those words just right and just have one conviction? Next thing you know, they get away with it. We are screwed there too. So these are things we need to think about. We need to become more proactive. We need to contact our representatives more often, not just wait until there's a bill on the table and we are life and death, because at that point we panic. We're not going to think as clearly, and even if we do, doesn't mean they're in the mood to listen as much. If you're only showing up when there's a crisis, then you're only thought of when there's a crisis. You're not being thought of. You're not being heard all the time because you're not bugging all the time. Why do you think ants actually get the recognition they get? They don't ever stop. They are there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, constantly pushing their agendas. Doesn't matter if their agendas are true. They're pushing it. So they're being heard. Anybody ever heard of the squeaky wheel gets the grease? Same idea. We need to make noise. We need to be heard, and not just when we're on the chopping block. We need to be heard all the time. If we have any chance of, Dave, we talked about this last week, and I thought about it. If we have any chance to be heard on mainstream media, like legit heard, on a continuous basis, we have to make noise all the time. Do you think that ants went to the media one time and said, hey, please put this up? No, they relentlessly bug them constantly until they put it up. We need to do that too. Constantly bombard them, constantly mentioning it to them. You know how the first time you talk to someone and they try to tell you smoking's not is better than vaping, and you try to explain it to them, you know how relentless you feel and how you can't let it go, you just can't do it. That's what we need. We need that type of mentality when we're trying to contact them. Yeah, we won't go into the corruption of the media yet, Mallory. That's a discussion for next week too. I am going to touch on that when we have a group here, a proper group. There are a couple people invited tonight. They may or may not pop into the stream. They're also invited next week, so they might wait until then. You know, if anyone's been in this for a while and doing the advocacy, you understand that the more often you do it, the more it burns you out. So sometimes it's good to take a week off and prepare. Yeah. Ants make money off the fact that they're pushing this. Do you realize if they actually, it's not just ants. Everyone's making money. Even the anti-cancer organizations make money off of this. Because if we actually put cancer down to a low enough percentage, that they aren't actively against, the numbers are too low for them to even justify existing, then they don't get the funding. They only get the funding if they keep cancer rates at a certain rate. And that's one of the better ones of our opposition. That's probably the only one that actually cares about anybody. The rest of them are kind of, yeah, exactly. We need more than one screaming shrew, though. We need a bunch of them. We do need someone like that. As crazy as we think she is, and as nuts as we portray her as, because she is, we know it. We need people like that are gonna sit there and not stop. We had some, but they burned out because no one would listen. But if we can get a bunch of people pushing constantly like that for a while, it'll be hard. But if we keep that up and then rotate it, we have enough people to rotate out our advocates. They start to get burned out, there should be other people stepping up. That's one of the reasons why I really got as involved as I did, not only locally, but tried to become more globally, forward with my advocacy. That was at the time when Grim Green was getting a little burned out. He needed a little bit of a break. He took a little time off of YouTube from it and everything. And I realized, how long he'd been doing that. Some of us have to step up and take that spot. If someone needs a break, someone else needs to step up. And whoever can still handle it, keep going. Maybe not completely back off. Just keep it there. Constantly keep them. I mean, I don't want to say badgering, but it is kind of badgering. But badgering with truths, not badgering with lies. As hard as it is, be careful what you say, because they will nitpick everything you can. The ants will nitpick even if you phrase things wrong. If someone says vaping's completely safe, well, that right there, you've already lied. It's not completely safe. We know this. Breathing the air outside is not completely safe. You can make that reference. Vaping is no more dangerous than breathing the air outside, especially if you live in a smog area. That's 100% true. And they can't deny that and fight that too as well. But making the wrong, we have to keep the image up that we are telling the same thing, and stop chasing our tails with the things they do. How many times have we had to still fight this popcorn lung thing? In the highest percentage vape liquids there was in the whole mix by the time it was made, when they had used diacetyl in large amounts, there was less than 7% per volume. 7 parts per million per volume. Cigarettes, 40 out of 50 cigarette brands contain diacetyl. They have approximately 700 milligrams, or 700 or 7,000. I forget which one it is, but it's either 10 times more, 100 times more, or 1,000 times more potent than in a vape, even if you're using a high percentage. Okay, this is just numbers. All right, so either 100 times or 1,000 times more. And has anyone ever heard of anyone getting popcorn lung from cigarettes? I mean, I know we're new to this anti thing, But does anyone remember how anti-cigarettes have been for like last 30 years? Do you think someone would have brought diacetyl up before? If it wasn't brought up as a ploy to try and get someone to like smoke in mirrors, trick people into thinking that vape is dangerous? No. The actual people that got sick were exposed for years and years and years at extreme amounts, like 700,000 parts per million or something like that, or a million parts. It was nearly 100, nearly 70% that, and they weren't always wearing their mask because for years they didn't have to. These are the people that wound up at popcorn lung. And this is just one of the ridiculous things that they like to circle. You'll watch, you'll see that. You see popcorn lung. You'll see them bring up the whole like sugars are bad for you thing. Like if anybody's diabetic, like I am, she is, others of you are, it doesn't really affect your diabetes. Never had to adjust anything. Nothing significant. Even if it's a highly sweetened juice, e-liquid, it does not matter. You know, these are the things they chase over and over. The metal in the lungs thing. If you are going to sit there and vape, knowing that you are tasting nothing like but burnt metal, to the point where it gets in your lungs, to the point where it's showing up on a blood test, you know, maybe you shouldn't be vaping, but you also need to get checked out for other things because that's not a very bright thought process. I'm sorry. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, that's it is not even, and that's not, and cigarettes have never caused it, Mallory. Never caused popcorn lungs. How is a vape with that difference in percentages? It's not. It's physically impossible. And absolutely crazy. Hey, Jangles. These are the things we got to keep on avoiding. And the nicotine argument. Now, unfortunately, we do have to worry about the nicotine argument because of what just happened with that bill that passed. And has anybody also noticed? We have a bunch of politicians, one in particular that doesn't even have to, you know, respond to their constituents. One whole branch pushed this bill through in a sneaky way for this. And they just happened to make this big push on anti-nicotine recently. Doesn't this sound a lot like Prohibition, like the original Prohibition? These fake news things just before a big vote. That wasn't coincidental, people. There's no way. That's not coincidental at all. And that's why it has to be a nonstop onslaught of positivity for vape. A nonstop onslaught of truth of vaping. Not just within the community, but to our politicians. To the public, for that matter. Because public opinion matters. Someone watched all that news, they could easily be swayed the other way. And if they send in an email to the politician, I'm concerned about this, that's enough. They don't have to have, oh, well, if this is true, that's not what they have to have. If they're concerned about it, it's enough to make them think. And we don't want them thinking like that. We want to keep them at least neutral at all times. And the only way we're going to do that is even if you don't have a flavor ban, occasionally send out an email, a phone call, or if you have the time and you're willing to do it, go talk to one of your politicians every so often. Get on a first name basis with that politician. Become semi-friends with them. If you could do that, that'd be great. I don't see that happening, at least not mainstream, but if that can happen, go for it. In fact, it might help you with other things, not just vape. Any liberties that are being stepped on. I mean, I'm not an advocate for smoking, that's for sure, but yet I am. Because I think if someone wants to smoke, they should have the choice to. It should be up to them, as long as they're an adult. And as a child, it should be up to your parents to try to make sure that you don't smoke. And if that is, there's a sidebar there. If someone's obtaining this illegal contraband for them, I do think that maybe something should be able to be done with that. A few years back. Yeah, nicotine actually is. Yes, you can post a link, Mallory. Um, Also, if anybody in chat, hey, Mallory, if you happen to have the link to Nick's latest that advocacy thing he did after this bill passed, that was actually really informative as well. I will have that up on Nightbot next week. I was going to do it tonight, but as then realizing that things weren't working as quick as I wanted them to, and it was easier to try and gather more people for next week rather than this week. So I decided that makes more sense to put all the eggs next week rather than try to do a partial here, partial there, unless someone still wanted to come on. Because as we know that I don't want anything I say is subjective to what I thought. There's possibilities of loopholes in what I'm saying, or people to come up with better solutions or add-ons to what I'm thinking. That's why I want to gather up some of the best minds I think I know get along. That's the other problem. Getting advocates together to get along. Not all advocates see exactly the same way. You got to get ones that are willing to flex with other people's opinions. Not everyone does. We have some great advocates out there. Some of them actually are still in the game. Some of them aren't. That pushed the agendas, and we thought they didn't do it quite right, or they didn't. Other people didn't think they did it right. But that's not the point. The point is they were loud. They were heard. That actually is really kind of what we need. We did kind of at the first White House hearing, and I'm sure many of you know who they were. We had those loud people. We really did. We had those people out there. We lost them because they burned out. You know, after the PMTA thing finally went through, the burnout hit in. You know, it was a lot of push for a long time. We need people to step up and be those people again. We need other people to be behind them and be like, sorry, Logan, I'm calling you out on this one. Be like Logan, who likes to research constantly and see through things and try and figure things out and have a pretty good grasp on the realities of it. And maybe sometimes reel those people in a little bit if they start to go a little too far. Jangles, that sometimes that whole not thinking and saying things sounds like a bad thing. And that's what these particular group of advocates did. But you know what? We needed that. We need the cheerleaders too. Even if the cheerleaders go a little bit overboard, that's okay. They're heard. That's the important part. We need the thinkers. We need the people at the hearings that can keep cool and think things through and be quick on the fly. And then we need the people out there that are willing to really push things. I can't do all of them all the time. It's just not possible. We can't. Well, one person can't. Mallory is pretty loud on Twitter. And that's a big deal. Unfortunately, I think that we're having a little less luck with the Twitter in this particular administration. It's still effective to some degree. Don't ever give it up. It's a good thing. But obviously, with our last president being Twitter happy, it definitely helped us so that the Twitter thing was more relevant. It's not to say that we don't have people that are still listening. Yeah, I know, Valerie. I said that kind of on purpose, but I really meant it as well. You are being loud on Twitter. You're constantly putting information out there, tagging people that need to be tagged. That's a way to be heard. And for the ones that won't put the Twitter down or still kind of stuck to the Twitter or just have always been that way or getting that way, those are the people that are still hearing you. And that helps. Every little bit of noise we make is a positive thing. Sorry, I had my corned beef and cabbage yesterday, so I got a little bit of burps. It's I didn't get to have it the day before like everyone else because I had blood tests yesterday. So yeah, and that's, well, Jangles, you know what? If you get blocked, you were heard. You were noticed. And if there's 100 people like you that all got blocked for the same reason, maybe they'll start thinking, hey, maybe it's me, not them. See, that's it. Just it. You might have gotten blocked. You alone can be ignored. 100 people, 1,000 people saying the same things, that's harder to ignore. That's when you start to think, oh, maybe they really mean it. That's what we got to keep on doing. And yeah, the burnout is real. And that's why we need to take some time off. Remember to take, if you feel that burnout kicking in, sit back, take a break. Let people know that you're taking a break. And it's understandable because if you keep pushing 100% of the time, all the time, I've taken a break for a little while for the most part because of different reasons. I've been watching it, and we're at this point where it's hard for us to push. And the only thing we can do is send out those emails and send out those call to actions and contact our representatives. Still doing that. I've been doing that. But as far as the talking thing, like what I'm doing right now, I've been back a little bit because I was like, we need to take a break. And if you notice, I had the game streams every Saturday night instead. That's because I felt we needed a little bit of time. Well, I think it's time for us to start rising up again. With this big push right now, we know what's next. They circle. They're like sharks. They just circle the same things over and over again. We're going to try and see another flavor ban. I'm calling it now. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. We're going to see a flavor ban, or they're going to try and figure out a way to ban VG and PG. They've already got the nicotine. They can take out one thing, they can take out two, or try to figure out how to further regulate and make it impossible to get tobacco-based nicotine as well. We got to watch these things. We got to be prepared, and we got to keep on pushing. Right now is the time before when they're already kind of feeling that. And here's the better part. That call to action went through. Too late to save the bill, right? But if they didn't all get thrown into spam and they actually get a chance to read them, it means that we've been heard. So it's time to keep it going. Don't let them forget. The moment they forget, yeah, I love you, Jingles. Don't let them forget that we're here. We got to constantly remind them that we're here and we're not going to lay down and just die. We're here. And we're fighting for the best cause there is. Life, liberty, and ironically, the pursuit of happiness. Wasn't that what we were supposedly the whole Americas was made for? Pursuit of happiness includes, improved health, improved well-being, living a better life. What more can we fight for and be American? If you're here in America, or any country for that matter, what better cause to fight for? It's what we need. It's what we got to do. And if you have it in your heart already, and if you're here, you do, then you got to do it. And, don't sit back. And if you have a little bit of that energy, a little bit in there, you don't have to keep it up. But every chance you get, that you feel enough, put it out there. Like Jangles, like you said, you burned out. You can burn out, but doesn't mean you have to disappear. You can still, once in a while, just muster up that little bit of energy and push it through. And next week we are going to have a bigger panel. We are going to discuss this deeper, and we're going to have your guys' input. I want to hear that. And yes, Mallory, please post that again next week. There, because we'll bring that up. I mean, as far as being allowed, if you have an opinion on stuff or thoughts on how this will work, be loud. We'll do our best to keep up with chat at all times. If the people that show up, or they're supposed to be the ones I know that are supposed to be there, show up next week, I'm sure this chat will be absurd. As I said, I did not actually advertise tonight's a prelude. I didn't know that was going to be that way at first. I thought it was going to be the big group, but because of one person not being able to make it, it's kind of a key person, someone I really need there. But that key person might be able to get me one of the others I wanted and a few extras. So, yeah, some of them are, Arnie. We can't necessarily say they all aren't. But here's the thing. If they have leadership in there, probably isn't. 100% a cannabis advocate. There's a good chance that somewhere they also know the fact that they're going to work themselves out of a job if they do a good job. And that's where we run into the problems, because they're smart enough to realize that we will be out of a job and I don't want to be. And there's where we run into big issues. And as we talked about mixing, we have Daytime Frank in the house, so yes, there's a mixer right there. We have two. We had Net Reality here a little while ago too. Two mixers I hold in very high regard. So, and hydrate, yeah. That's important, not just for on a stream, but whenever you guys are vaping, make sure you have water with you or some kind of beverage. I was on the way home after I finally got my blood work. I was chain vaping because, like, yeah, still dealing with the effects of not having caffeine for 24 hours, so I was kind of like not doing great with that. Finished my thermos of coffee in like 30 seconds. And then I finished my water, and I didn't have water the whole way home. Let me tell you. Yeah. Call to actions are important, but we need to treat that page, CASA's page, where they have the information about all your local representatives, like your local and state representatives in your area. Treat that like a call to action at least once a week. If you can't do it once a week, once a month. Treat that like a call to action. Message them. Let them know you're there. Let them know you exist. That's the most proactive thing we can do more than anything, especially with everything going on now. If you can call them up and give them a moment of your time, do it. Leave them a message. Just let them know that vaping saves lives. That your life has been improved. If you're going to send an email in as much detail as you can, how much your life has improved and how it has improved since you started vaping. These are the things we need people to hear. Yeah, it was. Let me tell you, I didn't think I would actually be all that bad without coffee or caffeine. Yeah, I'm not nearly as calm without it or as peaceful. Road rage is one thing. Road rage without caffeine? No. So. Oh, I hope so. Hope so for you, Daytime Frank. That's the other thing. Make sure if you notice a discrepancy on CASA, let them know. Because, they do their best to keep up with it. And it's an extremely huge job for them to do. But if you see some kind of bill being pushed that you didn't see on CASA or hear about on CASA, or you find out that, you go to contact your representatives and you realize that one of the representatives is not the right one, let them know so they can fix it. They will fix it, and they don't always know right away. They're not all knowing. You have to let them know once in a while. They do the best they can, and they do a very good job when you consider the low resources they have compared to the ants. Sadly, we're not backed by a billionaire or more. So, sorry, hand go up. Would you want something? No. Okay.
I was stretching.
All right. Yeah, that's the other problem, Frank, and that's an issue we need to figure out. That might be a good discussion to bring up when we have the panel next week. What do you do when you already know that your constituent hates you or hates vaping? There are some that, yes, you can tell your story and say, well, then you shouldn't have been smoking then. It's like, what would you like to me have done? It's too late. It's already been done. And or they're an ex-smoker, the one that quit, and not everyone's the same. And that's something they don't always understand. And sometimes they almost harbor a hatred for people who don't quit the way they did. Yeah, that's, Frank, that's rough. That might be a really good topic of discussion at some point, not just with next week's group, but to continuously think about how to break through to those people. I'm thinking the only chance you have is explaining health benefits. But if there are some that just won't listen. And I think that's one of the problems with our legislative system. Anyway, we have some people that were voted in so early on, or appointed, I should say, in so early on, that they're out of touch with it. Things like vaping the last 13 years, that they don't have a clue. They don't care to know. They're thinking, oh, it's new high-fangled smoking. That's exactly what they're thinking. And how do you get through to someone who thinks that way? This is the person that refuses to upgrade from a flip phone or won't use a cell phone at all because they're scared of the microwaves. These are the people that we're trying to get through to. Yeah, Dave, that's a good thought process. But in reality, like with this bill that just went through, they make their own salaries. And there's the issue. Somehow we got to take back our power over them. It can be done. The hard part is to get enough people together to do it. And that's where we got to keep on going. Yeah, we need to reminding them exactly. Even at the if anybody caught the hearing in that M. Turk and them went to, the one in thinking here, what's that state? Not my state. Oh, sorry. New Jersey. That's it. Yeah. New Jersey, when they went to that hearing, they brought that up. There were people that are like, you're losing this much revenue just from my shop alone, and there's many more shops that are in this situation. You're going to lose all this revenue. And they just looked at them like, and there's only one explanation in their heads. Cigarettes will make up for it. That's the thought process. Unfortunately, is truth. Cuomo, there's no way he wasn't thinking that way. The way he pushed the agenda and the way he tried to do things, the way he got Baker involved and got him to do the same thing. Baker stuck, Cuomo's didn't. We keep blaming Baker, but it was actually Cuomo's fault. And that's the crazy part. I mean, we just like the squeaky nail gets the grease. The one that actually succeeded is the one that took the blame, but it's actually Bloomberg, then Cuomo, then Baker. That's the chain that it went through. Bloomberg started it. We can always blame Bloomberg because Bloomberg is behind 99% of it all. Sadly, as far as the media and actually a lot of the governmental stuff. There are other factors. We all know how the MSAs are a factor. We know that the cigarette companies are a factor in any shape or form because they don't want to lose business. We know that the big pharma is a factor because they don't want to lose business. And we have all the supposed advocates against cancer, against things and stuff like that sound great, but they can't get themselves out of a job, so they won't really follow through all the way. Don't you find it funny that a lot of these things are, get donations from Bloomberg, but they don't make sense? None of them add up. I mean, trace the money. I hate to go back to that theory, but if you trace Bloomberg's money where it's went, it doesn't go to one side. It goes to both. Because he knows the system is delicate and can be milked completely dry if you do it right. You don't think he makes money off all that? Oh, he makes a killing. He probably doesn't even balk an eye at how much money he spends because he'll make it right back because he's doing it. Exactly. Unfortunately, Jingles, that's the truth. Because they still can write themselves checks even if the money doesn't exist. Only in America will you pay yourself out of a deficit if need be. And that's just the way it goes. Yeah, ants. We need to keep going, keep pushing, be as loud as the ants. We gotta come up with that. We need more people to be loud. What Mallory's doing on Twitter, we need to do that everywhere. At some point, speaking loud enough, like we can't expect it only to be the Grim Greens and people up like in that caliber to be able to be on TV, to be interviewed at all. We need to be loud enough that we have hundreds of people that they want to interview because they're being loud. They like that absurdity. That's crazy, but that's the entertainment they're looking for. Let's be that entertainment, but in a positive way rather than. Yeah, Tom, there's no one I dislike more in this world, actually. And that's saying something. If we can push the positivity to the point where it reflects so bizarre and so out there, but it's truth and positivity, that we score some interviews, we have some stepping ground. We keep thinking that we're going to get someone else to step in and switch from what they do to the agenda. That might happen if we can start by creating the agenda that they want to switch to. I've talked to some people that are actually in an entertainment business. It is not, at this point, their contracts, most of them, have clauses against pro-vaping. They can't do anything about it. Some of them will allow anti-vaping, but for the most part, they don't want them to talk about it at all. So that leaves us with us. We need to become those demi-celebrities. We need to talk loud enough to be heard to the point where someone wants to interview you. It can happen. It happens. It's not going to happen quickly. It's not going to happen easily, but the only way it's going to happen is if we're loud about it. We need to talk. We need to raise our voices and be heard. These are just my thoughts, obviously. But yeah, there's always another candidate. That's another thing. We talked about voting our hopes. But how many people did we hear the last time the election went out to said it? Oh, well, I got to vote for the lesser evil. As soon as you do that, you lose. And you know what? In case of the presidency, how close that was. Yeah, I mean, I can kind of see that because there's some things that don't add up. Don't want to get into the whole tinfoil hat theories, but there's some really good ones out there, so look into it a little bit. Some of them make sense, and some of them actually have proof. But with the local and state level legislation, there are some that you could have actually voted someone in. All it takes is 1,000 people, maybe even less, to vote someone in for a third party. The problem is, because we think that we can't do it, we have to get one of the two or two or three that's up in there and going to be it. We don't ever try. We give up, roll over, and most of us don't. And if you guys can hear that, we have one heck of a rainstorm kicking in. That's why I keep looking up. You might be able to hear it even through the mic. This is a 2-story building, and I can hear it on the roof. So hopefully I don't lose power if I do, or internet. Yeah, there you go, Tom. You're a cute celebrity. There you go. You can be that celebrity for us. But I'm not going to keep this much longer with this storm going on because I'm probably, at some point, it's going to get so loud you might not be able to hear me. This is like cats and dogs rain. We've only had this like 3 times this year this bad. But, yeah, it's pouring hard. That's how we need to be. We need to pour down on them the same way. Constantly keeping them from ignoring we're around. Hey, Graham. The other Graham. Yeah. Yeah, you could hear the rain. Yeah, that was something. It was wow, that was really. It's coming down. You know what? I think I'm going to sell my car and buy a boat for tomorrow because it might be able to swim my way around anyway. You know what's worse? You know why this is happening? Because what I told her earlier, I says, if it's nice like today but not raining, I'm going to take the bike out. Someone up there said, no, you're not. That was my fault. I'll take the blame. Yeah, if we can make it so the rain, like the rain's coming through like that, that's kind of the way I'm talking. We're really loud like that. And even that their best efforts, they can't keep us quiet. They're going to have some trickle through and they're going to have to start listening. That's something we need to do. And then next week with the group, there's a few more things I want to see if we can change. And I want to see if anyone else has any ideas where we might be able to change up some things, maybe in the way we do call to actions, maybe in the way we contact our representatives. There might be a better way. Maybe tried and true is good, but sometimes changing it up might help. I think it'd be worth a try to change some things. The proactive approach is definitely needed. We can't sit back and wait for them to come after us and then just fight back, because then you're fighting uphill battle versus being on a level playing field. We're not on a level playing field. We're already fighting an uphill battle. But if you get a bill that's introduced, you're not fighting an uphill battle. You're fighting from ground zero, and they're up on a mountain. It's not, yeah, it's just really difficult. But yeah, thank you guys for coming out tonight. And I hope that this helps a little bit, helps you think a little and start to maybe come up with some ideas. I'm kind of glad this did work out this way tonight and things changed, because this gives us another opportunity. You will see the same thumbnail next week. The difference is it'll have part 2 in the thing, because I do want these to go together. I do want people in chat tonight or people that watch this on replay. I want you to think. I want you to come up with things. Leave it on the comments if you're watching this and watching this on replay. I want this input for everyone for next week so we can actually be more effective and possibly stop being beat down. It's not to the point where we can, in the U.S., it's going to be difficult to ever bring it up. Addie's awesome. It's not that we don't try. It's not that we're ever going to get like promoted on a Bloomberg network according to the level of like the ants. We're not going to get that fair shake. But if we can be heard enough to the point where at least we can stand our ground against the big ones, that's the part that's important. That's the part that's difficult. We can't win yet, but we can maintain our ground, which is a win. We don't think of it as a win. Sometimes we think, oh, it's not a win. We just didn't get hit this time. Every one of them is a win because we actually changed someone's mind in order to make that happen. And every time we change someone's mind, think of it as a smoker that finally gives in and starts to vape, and they have a chance at a better life. That's what we're doing, one person at a time. Eventually, it'll spread. It's just going to take a lot of loudness for a long time and never stop. I mean, if you need an individual, as an individual, need some time to back off here and there, do it. Don't burn yourself out. Make sure you do it early enough so you're not burned out, because sometimes that keeps people away for forever, or at least for a very long time. So when you feel that burnout, take a week or two. Just breathe. Yeah, I'll check it when I'm done. I will be checking messages too if anyone is going to message me or something after the show. In fact, I might actually tonight, because this wasn't planned, to not have everything before I go out for the night. I will actually put the link in chat if anyone would like to get in on the after show. We can even discuss this a little bit further. That way, there we can. I want to try and pull things together. I think we need to right now. I know it wasn't immediately after the bill was passed, but needed to process it a little bit. Sorry it wasn't quicker. But knowing what just happened, trying to think what's our best course. And this is not an easy course to do. Thank you for the links, Mallory, tonight. That's been very helpful. Without Addie here tonight, I know Addie was busy too. Dealing with a lot, that's the other thing. Even with everyone's best intentions, life comes first. That's what I told everyone tonight when I got a couple of responses. Things were kind of busy. Life comes first. That's what we're trying to do, is make life easier, life better. Not just for us, not for just those that are vaping, but also for those who haven't transitioned yet or would have started smoking. If you're going to take an addiction, take the lesser path. Take the lesser evil. Take the one that's not going to guaranteed potential for health problems in the future. That's the better path. And thank you, Mallory. Thank you very, very much. And here, I'll put the link in chat here, and I'm going to call this for the night. We will discuss this further next week with a much, much more involved discussion with a panel of people that in many ways are smarter than me with this stuff. I do my best, and sometimes I get every once in a while, as someone said for something else to me today, even a blind squirrel can find a nut once in a while. We have some people here that really do some deep digging, and I can't wait to get them on and have as close to the perfect, my version of a dream panel that gets along. And that's hopefully going to happen next week. If it does, we're in for a treat. Even I'm going to be sitting back and going, okay, oh, yeah, right. I'll get worked up too. Thank you. Good night, everybody. And here's the link before I go. And I'll let you guys listen to some more Rush by Adam Pilarczyk. Actually, I'll play the same music next week. I'm actually probably, that'll be, if you hear that music in the beginning and the title's questionable, you pretty much are going to know what it is, because I kind of really like that song. I think it has the right tempo. We need to get moving, and that's a good one. So thank you guys. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. I will see many of you on Tuesday night, hopefully for the Tuesday night takeover. And trying to think. And maybe tomorrow we'll see how Zippy's feeling, if she's up to do the other. You guys have a great night. And here you go.
Modern day warrior, mean stride. Today's Tom Sawyer, mean pride. Though his mind is not for rent, don't put him down as arrogant. His reserve a quiet defense, riding out the day's events. What you say about his company is what you say about society. Catch the mist, catch the myth, catch the mystery.